All right. Welcome. It's Monday. We're starting your week off on the right foot. Michael Flint, Jason Berard. It's the big game. Welcome to the jungle. What are we talking about today, Mike?
Well, did you have a happy Halloween? Let's start there.
Oh, I was a tricker. I wasn't a treater. Not this year. I've been treating every year. This time I tricked, though.
Yeah, I can't believe it's November already. You know, the start today is the second.
Spooky.
Companies are coming into the final home stretch of 2015. Before we know it, Christmas is going to be here. We're into 2016. So,
speaking of spooky, you know what's spooky for an employer?
What's that?
When you see that candidate come into the pipeline that wants to do a complete career switch.
True. That's a true story.
Is that not a spooky scenario for a prospective employer to see it?
Yeah, well, I think so. I mean, there's a paradigm. There's always a paradigm shift with something like that because you're taking somebody obviously outside of their comfort zone. They feel that they have transferable skills or they have ambition or they want to do something else or they're bored or whatever their motivators are. But yeah, from an employer's perspective, I would see that there's a red flag there.
Yeah, there's people that want to absolutely change their careers completely. You know, they've got the attitude, the eagerness to want to do it. Maybe some applicable skills from a similar industry, like from pharmaceuticals to food and beverage. That's a pretty similar one, but we're talking straight up different industries, different career choices, but they want to change everything altogether.
Yeah, well, I think in fairness though, some people are forward thinkers. You know what I mean? Like there are certain industries that have a lifespan to them. You know, if you're going to be, if you want to be a taxi driver in today's world, you might want to be aware of Uber's coming on your back end.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like things are changing. People know that. And the skill set of yesterday is no longer the driving skill force of today, right? There's so many things that have changed throughout the last even just 10 years with tech that we're seeing so many different positions even just pop up. And I think that if someone's doesn't have that applicable experience in that way, they want to get into it, right? So there's probably three things that you really need to hammer down. And that's an elephant, that's a light bulb, and that's a hurdle. And what I mean by that is, the first one that you have to look at is a candidate's light bulb on? Does the candidate, he or she, really understand that the career switch is asinine? That's an asinine switch, right? They have to know that.
It's a valid question, and I think if I'm the hiring manager, that would be the first thing that I would probe. I'd want to know, does this person understand that they're getting into something brand new? And if you're going to get into something brand new, are you prepared for that investment?
Yeah, if you just came in and was I've done this and I want to do this and I know that I could do it, because this, and they're like, wait a second, do you really know what you're getting yourself into? Because we're completely different than anything that you've ever done before, right? And sometimes that's even within specific industries. So that's the light bulb, right? Is the light bulb on? The second one is, do they see the elephant?
The elephant in the room. Well, listen, I mean, if you're going to make that investment, you're going to have to work harder than anyone else. You're going to have to put forward your value proposition and create a business case as to, why they should make a hiring decision in your favor. I think, there's a big measure of fire in the belly and obviously enthusiasm and energy and how that person would come up and portray themselves. But they do have to be aware. And I think my advice would always be to get ahead of the question. You want to get ahead of it and say, this is why I'm making the switch. This is what I'm prepared to do. And this is, my action plan to maybe offset the knowledge that you don't have, but you need to have to be an expert in that particular.
Hey guys, I'm going to be honest. I'm an apple and this is an orange. Right? I know that we can't really compare, but I want to get into this and I feel like I can because of these reasons, but I know that I'm an apple and that's an orange. So that's if they see the elephant in the room. And the third one is, I want to quote a good hurdle jumper here in the Olympics to keep my metaphor game strong, but I can't think of one that's on the
hurdle jumper
on the top of my head. So do they see the hurdles that they're going to have to overcome, the challenges that lie ahead, especially in their first, 90 days, 90 to 120 days?
Will they work harder than everybody else?
Yeah. Do they have it in them?
Can they still be a team player and show up with a smile on their face? How are they going to handle the stress in this situation?
Yeah.
You really have to make sure that your focus is on and you have that extra amount of time to become an expert in that space. I think they say it's 10,000 hours to be an expert in any particular industry.
Really? I thought it was 100 because I say I'm an expert in a lot of things. So.
Well, listen, I mean, look at it from a career perspective. If it takes 10,000 hours to be an expert in something, you're looking around 4 years, right, of Monday to Friday, 40 hours a work week. Now, listen, we work longer hours than that. And with respect to becoming an expert in something, even if you're doing like say 60, 70 hours per week to put in that extra time, work weekends, extend your knowledge base, it's still 2.5 years.
Yeah, so it's like you have to have that sort of humility that you're not the expert and you're not going to be the expert anytime soon. So you got to know that the team that you're going to join it's going to be hard for you to get ramped up into sort of their level of playing field. So what are some questions that an employer can ask or probe this person?
Well, right? what's the motivation? Why are you making the career change?
Yeah.
I mean, if
that's probably the number one reason, right? Like we want a compelling reason.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it could be earning potential. It could be because you're in an industry where, the competitive landscape is so great and it looks like maybe technology is maybe offsetting some of the demand of the human capital. Yep. Those are very valid reasons. I think the biggest thing that we see on a day-in-day basis is people want to get to that next level in their career. They want to earn more money, and their motivators could be family. It could be lifestyle. It could be, a tangible Tesla. Whatever
for more problems.
That's
Nobody
right.
Get more
Yeah,
problems,
first world
more
problems. But yeah, absolutely. What is driving them to make the career change? And take a measurement of their passion. You know what I mean? Like, how passionate are they at explaining why they're making this investment and why they're going to transition into something new?
Yeah, I think like that's going to be the number one compelling reason. And then, you can just ask them straight up. Next question is, what do you think? And get their way of thinking. What are your skills that you think are transferable in this? And get them to be specific.
Yeah, I think so for sure. You have to think this through. You have to really kind of go through an exercise of identifying your value proposition, bring your strengths forward, and make sure you're framing in why you're that best person for the opportunity.
Yeah. So previous skill set, and you tie that into what you're lacking to be truly successful in it right now. I think that's the third one, right?
But in that case, you need to apply a learning strategy, because if you're coming into something new, yes, there's going to be gaps. Some things that you don't know. Two things. One, you have to know where to get the answer if you're not an expert, especially if you're customer facing. But I think as it pertains to breaking that perception on maybe not having your experience line up with the hiring manager, go in with a learning strategy. This is what I'm prepared to do. This is how it's going to look over the course of a calendar year or your first quarter, or however you're putting a measurement of success in place.
Yeah, I think like if you have, again, it's about that awareness, that self-awareness of where I'm at, what I bring to the table, but what I'm really good and need. Then it gives that prospective employer a landscape of how they're going to train and develop you, right? And ultimately, they want to know, like, if you are making this career change, you've got this compelling reason, you've got this skill sets, like, how are you going to make a greater impact in this role than that we currently have, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, listen, I would go back and measure motivation again. When it comes down to having an impact, the most motivated candidate typically is the one that gets the job, all things being equal. And I think sometimes, organizations, if they're honest with themselves and they're doing a health check in their company, you don't always want to hire same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to, your company has to grow. The culture has to evolve. People have to complement one another. So if you have everybody the same, then you have a very vanilla type organization. And at some point, you're going to stagnate.
Yeah, I think that true performance can prove that they're worth the risk, right? I think the thing about taking someone that's not vanilla, not plain Jane to what you're used to, there's an associated risk, right? And without risk comes no reward, but with those risks can come that great reward. And I think this is something that we're only going to see more of, is people making full-on 180, 360-degree career changes, because there's so many degrees out there, not enough qualified jobs.
You want to be a specialist, not a generalist in many cases.
You're the jack of all trades, you're the master of none, right?
Yeah, it's true.
And so I think that one of the big things for prospective employers is to entertain those options too. Like, entertain someone. When you see someone from X industry and you're in Y industry, and maybe there's and you see that they've got some proven accomplishments and skills from that.
Challenge them though.
Challenge them.
Yeah.
Like, give them an opportunity to explain why that switch would be happening. Because if you don't, especially with where we're going, you might be losing out on some great candidates that can really help contribute to the overall growth and bottom line for your organization.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. I actually have a client right now that we're evaluating very broadly the candidates that come in, because they're identifying additional sales verticals that are outside their primary business planning. And it's only through going through that Q&A with candidates that are interested in becoming part of it. And this is actually mission control technology that can be used in verticals for transportation or heavy equipment, but it also has applications to school buses and garbage trucks. So we found a waste management professional that says, hey, have you ever thought about this? And these guys never thought about it. And it's huge. It's like
Wow.
It's huge.
Well, that's just it, right? You find those areas of niche specialties that people don't know about. Opportunities are hidden. And I think that you can find your next candidate in a different industry, in a different role, if they're willing to put in the time and understand what it's going to take for them to be successful in your role, and ultimately how they can affect your bottom line. So that's it. It's Magna Search Group. Big game hunters. Great week ahead. Hope you have a great November. We're off to the right foot, and we hope you are too. So check us out on LinkedIn, SoundCloud, YouTube, you name it. We're all over the place. See you on Wednesday.
Ciao.